The last thing she said to her son was, "I'll see him tomorrow."
Thought me, I wish I'd went back in and just gave him that hug.
She had just dropped off his baby boy. He stood at the door and said something he almost never said.
Thanks, Mum. Thanks for doing everything.
She paused at the car, thought about going back in for a hug, decided against it, drove away. That was Saturday night, the 9th of October, 2021. She would never see her son alive again. Sean McKay was 23 years old and the loudest person in every room he walked into. His mother, Debbie, had him saved in her phone as Foghorn Sean. His sisters, Simone and Samantha, had grown up with the kind of little brother who once jumped out a window as a toddler and ran straight into the neighbor's house. He was the class clown, the one running through the corridors at school, always surrounded by laughter.
He was a bit of a class clown. You always seen him running the corridors, so you just knew he had loads of personality.
Sean was born in Paisley, on the outskirts of Glasgow. Paisley at the time was rough. Gangs, crime, boys getting pulled in too young.
Felt I had to kind of move from that area just for my children. And for Sean, it was because he was easily led with older boys.
Debbie saw her son starting to follow older kids and made a decision that changed his life. She moved the whole family to Stevenson, a small coastal town in North Ayrshire.
We all made friends quite quickly at school. Sean ended up being parts of football teams there. He was in the school plays. So yeah, he did settle in really nicely.
Sean was about 7 years old. He took to it immediately. Football teams, school plays, skating at the local rink, swimming in the sea. He made friends easily, everyone knew him. It was in high school that Sean met Chloe McCormick. They started dating on April 1st, April Fool's Day. Chloe came over to his dad's house for one night and never left.
They were meant to stay for one night and they never left.
They invited me over to his dad's house and I just stayed the night. And then that was it. I stayed for 2 weeks after that.
2 weeks later, she was still there. They were opposites in the best way. She was quiet, he was loud, yin and yang. But Sean changed for Chloe. He stayed home more. He went to the shops for her. He did whatever she needed without being asked. In 2019, they moved in together. They were building a life. And then came the news that made Sean cry with joy. Chloe was pregnant. Sean posted about it constantly. "Can't wait till my little one's here." On the 5th of July, 2020, their son Oscar was born. Sean held him for the first time, tears streaming down his face. "I can't believe this is actually happening." He worked as a laborer with Chloe's father, doing bathroom work, joinery, honest physical work. Every penny went to Chloe and Oscar. He was getting his driving lessons. He was achieving things, and there was one more thing Sean had been quietly planning, something only his closest friends knew about.
After Sean died, I found out he was going to ask me to marry him.
He was going to ask Chloe to marry him. She would only find this out after he was gone. Sunday, the 10th of October, 2021 started like any other day. A cloudy, rainy kind of day in Dalry, a quiet town in North Ayrshire where everyone knew everyone. Sean had swapped his Saturday shift for Sunday. He left for work that morning, and Chloe put Oscar to bed that evening, expecting Sean home around 6, maybe 7, maybe 8. A normal night. But something was already going terribly wrong in Dalry that weekend. The day before, on the 9th, a man had been stabbed 3 times in the back. That man happened to be the nephew of a friend of Gavin McVeigh, a 38-year-old with previous convictions for assaulting a child, carrying a weapon, and attempting to pervert the course of justice. McVeigh was not a man anyone in Sean's world had ever heard of. He ran in different circles entirely. After the stabbing of his friend's nephew, McVeigh, that friend spent the entire day drinking tonic wine in excess.
Gavin was verbally vile to the shopkeeper. Racial comments were made, and he threatened to kill the shopkeeper.
By Sunday evening, McVeigh was spiraling. He went to a local shop with a friend and racially abused the shopkeeper, threatening to kill him. The terrified shopkeeper asked him to leave and banned him for life. They then went to a couple's house, people who knew them, and McVeigh's behavior became unhinged. He stabbed a knife into the carpet. He said he wanted to kill someone.
He was in possession of a knife. He was insisting that he was going to kill someone.
The couple were so frightened that after McVeigh left, they called the police themselves. Gavin McVeigh was now on the street, drunk, armed with a large knife, in a state of uncontrolled rage, and looking to harm somebody. Sean McKay was walking home from work on St. Margaret's Avenue, just around the corner from his house. He and Gavin McVeigh had never met, never spoken, never crossed paths. But in the space of a few seconds, McVeigh saw Sean and attacked him, stabbing him once in the abdomen. The blade perforated his liver, his diaphragm, and his heart. It was almost instant. Even if it had happened inside a hospital, nothing could have saved him. Members of the community rushed to help. McVeigh's own friend, the one who'd been drinking with him all day, stayed at the scene. He called 999. He performed CPR. Neighbors came running. A young woman held Sean until help arrived. But Sean McKay, 23 years old, a father, a partner, a son who had just thanked his mother for everything, died on that street. In the right place, at the right time, doing the most ordinary thing in the world, walking home.
Totally unprovoked attack by someone determined to kill another person. It was almost instant death for this poor individual.
He was on the phone to one of his friends, like on FaceTime, and they heard somebody shouting at him, and then his phone switched off. Nobody could contact him.
Chloe was the first to sense something was wrong. She was in a group chat when a message appeared. Someone asking about two guys who had been shouting.
Because we were all like in this group chat. Sean, who were they two guys shouting at you?
She tried to phone Sean. No answer. She called his friend John. John said he'd heard shouting too, then the phone went dead. Sean should have been home by now. He was just around the corner. Panic set in. Chloe called Debbie. Can you look out the window? Can you see anything? Debbie looked.
The window, and she said she'd seen police. There was blue lights. There was police all about. There's people running out houses.
Blue lights, police everywhere, people running out of their houses. I'm coming over, Debbie said, but Chloe couldn't leave.
I couldn't leave the house because Oscar was in his bed sleeping. It was just awful. I felt really trapped.
Oscar was asleep in his bed. She was trapped in her own home while the worst thing imaginable was unfolding a street away. She waited from 9 o'clock until midnight. Then her father came in and said, Chloe, this is something serious. There's tape everywhere. It looks like they're putting up a tent. Her heart dropped. When the police car pulled up outside, Chloe already knew. The officer said, Are you Chloe? I'm sorry to tell you, but Sean has died from his injuries. She fell to the floor. She screamed in the street. Neighbors stared from the windows. All she could scream was, You've took his dad away from his boy. She couldn't look at Oscar the next morning. He was smiling at her, and his father was gone. Across town, Simone had felt it before anyone told her. She was lying in bed when her watch buzzed with a message. Answer your phone. I need to talk to you.
And they heard somebody shouting at him, and then his phone switched off. Nobody could contact him. And there was something in me in that moment that I knew. Don't know if it's a sibling bond, but there was something in my body that told me that he was gone.
Meanwhile, the killer was running. Gavin McVeigh had fled the scene immediately after the stabbing. He hid overnight at his mother's property. He concealed the blood-stained knife in a tent in the garden behind a rucksack. Just before 11 that night, he sent a text message to a friend.
On the evening of the murder, Gavin McVeigh messaged his friend saying, I've just killed some, and then he used a derogatory word to describe Sean. The fact that he's put it in a text message shows complete lack of thought, lack of respect.
The message said, I've just killed some, followed by a derogatory word to describe Sean, a man he had never met, a man whose name he didn't even know. The next morning, McVeigh got on a bus from Dalry to Irvine. He went to a relative's house. He was erratic, jittery. He kept repeating something bad happened. His recollection, as he told it, was chilling in its detachment. 1 minute the man was standing next to him, and the next minute the man was on the floor. That was all he would say. But the police were already closing in. They had statements from the scene. They had the 999 call from McVeigh's own friend, the friend who had stayed behind, who had tried to save Sean's life and who now told officers exactly who had done it. The friend implicated Gavin McVeigh as the killer. The question was no longer who, it was where. The break came through two things: the friend's statement and the CCTV. While there were no cameras at the exact spot where Sean was attacked, police pieced together McVeigh's movements through public space CCTV and bus route cameras. They traced him from Dalry to Irvine to Ayr. Officers visited every known associate, every house he was known to frequent. On the 12th of October, 2 days after Sean's death, police arrested Gavin McVeigh at his brother's house in Ayr. Separately, a search of his mother's property in Dalry uncovered the murder weapon, a large blood-stained knife hidden in a tent in the garden. When forensically examined, the knife told the whole story. Sean McKay's blood was on the blade. Gavin McVeigh's DNA was on the handle. His fingerprints were found inside his mother's house, confirming he had been there after the attack. And then there was the text message, sent just before 11 p.m. on the night of the murder. An admission in his own words, sent casually as if it meant nothing. The evidence was overwhelming, but McVeigh would not admit what he had done. He denied everything. He would make the family wait nearly 2 years for a trial, and when it came, he would try to blame someone else entirely.
There was so much overwhelming evidence against Gavin McVeigh. There was no evidence against this other individual, but he still stuck by that. He was determined to use any means whatever to get off with.
The trial of Gavin McVeigh began on the 12th of June, 2023 at the High Court in Paisley. It lasted 2 weeks. Every single day, around 20 of Sean's family and friends filled the public gallery. The journalist covering the case said he had never seen a courtroom so packed with supporters for a victim. Not once. McVeigh was defiant from the start. He shook his head when the prosecutor spoke. He tutted, he sniggered, he rolled his eyes. He lodged a special defense of incrimination, blaming the friend who had called 999, the same man who had stayed to perform CPR on Sean. But the evidence against McVeigh was too much. The CCTV, the knife with Sean's blood and McVeigh's DNA, the statements, the text message confession. There was nothing linking the friend to the murder. Nothing at all. When the knife was shown in court, people gasped. It was a large blade, the weapon that had ended Sean's life in a single strike.
Horrible, but it showed his character.
On the 23rd of June, 2023, the jury returned a unanimous guilty verdict. Sean's family applauded. They thanked the jury, they said thank you. Gavin McVeigh's response was to boo, swear violently, and give the middle finger to the entire public gallery as he was led away. He was sentenced to 21 years in prison.
I was given 21 years, but I've lost my partner. Oscar's lost his dad. It just wasn't enough.
The family went to the place where Sean died and laid flowers. They went late at night to avoid the crowds. A car pulled up. A young woman got out crying. She told him she'd been there with Sean that night, that she and others in the community had done everything they could to help him. She was sorry she couldn't save him, but she wanted the family to know he was not alone. Today, Oscar is getting older. He asks questions about his dad. He knows who Sean is from stories, pictures, and videos. Chloe says Oscar is his father's double, full of energy, full of personality. She thinks they would have gotten along brilliantly. After Sean died, Chloe learned the truth about the proposal. He had spoken about it with his closest friends. She would have said yes, definitely. Debbie still thinks about that Saturday night. The moment she stood at the car, thought about going back in for a hug and drove away instead. She carries that with her every day. But she also carries what Sean gave her, a grandson who laughs like his father, a family that showed up in that courtroom every single day, and the memory of a boy who was loud and loving and proud of all of them. Sean McKay was 23 years old. He loved football, Game of Thrones, and Marvel films. He danced at every wedding. It is now